Hello and welcome to the Patty Pod, Season 3, Episode 12. We are going back to interviews. For this episode, I'm with Colleen Doan-Lombardozzi, and she's going to tell us about her near-death experiences. And so without further ado, I'll just welcome you, Colleen, to the Patty Pod podcast.
Okay, Patty Pod.
The Patty Pod. And why don't we just jump in like we talked about before, just jump into your story, and then we can talk a little bit more about how it's impacted your life afterwards, and maybe a little bit about your background, and I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope you will learn something from this. I had one child, and I live in Brooklyn, New York, but I was visiting my parents in Saskatchewan because there was a teacher strike here. My son couldn't start school. And that was, so I found out when I was there that I was pregnant, and we were just absolutely thrilled to death. And then just one day after I told my husband on the phone that I was pregnant, I had pains in my stomach, terrible, terrible. I couldn't stand. My mother came home from curling, and she was annoyed at me because I didn't get potatoes peeled for supper. But then I couldn't get out of bed, and finally I called her and I said, I have to go to the bathroom, I can't get up. So she came to get me and stand me up, and she got my brother to come and help me because my legs would not move. And they were half carrying me to the bathroom, and I passed out. And I let go of all my inner stuff, and then my mother sent my little brother to find a doctor who lived on the corner of our block, and he came, and I had nothing, and he called an ambulance.
When you had nothing, you said, were you unconscious?
No, I was in shock.
Okay.
I was in shock, and I heard everything. And I haven't really talked to many people about this, but when you were in shock, you do hear what's going around you. Mm. And so my mother came to me, was in the emergency room and this and that. And then at one point, I heard them really very nervous, and they decided they had to do what they called cut downs because they could not get any blood transfusion into me because apparently I had lost all my blood, or a lot of blood, I should say. So they were cutting at my ankles and at my elbow crease, and I heard them talking, and then at that point, and I was sort of but I heard them, and then I saw that there were two angels floating above in the emergency room, right above me. Mm. One with dark hair, one with blonde, and they were saying to me, Colleen, come with us. It'll be beautiful. Colleen, it's time. No, come. It'll be just beautiful. You'll just love it. It's going to be wonderful. Don't be afraid. And sort of all those things. And I was listening to them, and then I was about to go because I thought, oh, this sounds so wonderful. Mm. And so then I thought about my son, my 4-year-old son. Mm. And I said to myself, oh, I can't. And then they said, Colleen, come. And I said, no. And okay. Then it was shortly after that. Apparently I started reviving, and they got some blood in me. They had to cut my arm. They had to cut all the way in, find the vein, and then cut the vein open so they could get the needle in it.
They couldn't just do a regular...
No. Because they couldn't find veins. They had all collapsed. And so then they said, okay, now we can get her to the operating room. Let's go. They got the operating room ready, and they were wheeling me down the corridor, probably changing a floor. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. And the angels were still with me. They followed me, and they were still there. And I go back a second. They were in robes, like you saw them in the Bible when you were a kid. White robes that were just flowing with them. So anyway, then we got into the operating room, and there was this whole team there. I couldn't open my eyes, but I could hear everything. And I was listening very carefully, and they told me to count backwards from 100.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, and I was still doing it. I was doing it at 90, and they said, keep going, and I was going, and they said, we can't wait any longer. This is what I heard the doctors saying to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they cut me open, and I felt it.
Oof.
They cut me straight down from my belly button, and then...
So they hadn't given you any anesthesia at this point?
I guess they had tried, but I was not taking it. I was fighting, because the angels were still there, and still asking me to go with them. And I was fighting them.
You were fighting the medical staff?
No, the angels.
Uh-huh.
So I was fighting not to die, because I wasn't going to go with the angels.
And you think that somehow blocked the effects of the
yes.
anesthetic?
Yeah, I was fighting whatever they were doing. I mean, I feel very, very strongly about that. And then I felt a doctor's hand go inside my stomach. And they said, we're in, and then that was it. And I didn't remember anything until after recovery. But the next day when the doctor came, and I asked him about this angel thing, because it was very confusing, and I remembered it all very well. And I said, doctor, one time I remember telling them no, and I thought I spoke out loud. Did you hear me say no? He said, yes, we thought we were hurting you.
All right, we took a little break there, just because it got to be pretty emotional. So, as you can imagine, listener. So, we're going to pick it back up. So, Colleen, you had just mentioned that the angels were with you in the hospital. They came down the corridor with you into the operating room, and that they were asking you this whole time to come with them, to die, to go with them to the other side. And you had said no, because you're thinking of your child primarily back here. And then the last thing you remember was a doctor's hand going inside of your abdomen, and then you were out, and then you woke up and you were in recovery. So you lost that second child.
Yes.
Because you were in essentially a life-threatening pregnancy, right? Because there was some kind of a problem with the pregnancy.
The problem is it's called pregnancy in the tube.
Oh, okay.
And the baby doesn't move out of the tube, and it starts growing in the tube.
In the fallopian tube.
In the fallopian tube, and then it bursts it.
Ah.
And that's why you lose all the blood and everything like that, and you collapse. And
so the doctors removed the unborn child at that point.
I have no idea. I was about 4 months pregnant, 3 to 4 months pregnant.
And you didn't know until the day before,
No.
So this was all a huge shock over a 48, 72-hour period.
Exactly.
Because you find out you're pregnant, and then all of a sudden you have this traumatic episode where you nearly die.
Yes.
And you live. And is that for that time when you wake up in the recovery room, do you see the angels anymore, or are they gone then?
Yeah, no, I see the angels, and I've always...
In the recovery room?
No, I didn't see them in the recovery room again. I didn't see them or feel them until many, many years later, when my husband had been flying and had crashed and was taken to a hospital, and people came to get me, to bring me to the hospital. And we were upstate New York, and it was a fair car ride to get there. And in the car going, I felt the angels there.
So this
in the car.
This is. Do you remember how many years later? 10 or?
Oh no! My son it was 25 years later.
25 years later.
Yes.
So you hadn't seen the angels in that interim.
No.
And hadn't sort of. They hadn't appeared, or you didn't feel their presence, or really not much of any contact.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. And then it's 25 years later. You get this report that your husband he flew his own kind of small plane, correct?
Yes.
And he had a crash, and he's in the hospital. So now you're traveling some distance to go to upstate New York.
Right. Well, actually into New Jersey, because that was the closest hospital.
Okay.
From where we were, closer to the Pennsylvania, not New Jersey, Pennsylvania border.
Okay.
So that was the closest hospital.
So he had crashed near the Pennsylvania border, and they brought him to New Jersey. So you're now...
No, we didn't get to New Jersey. I'm sorry I mentioned that. It was Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
When I saw him in the hospital, and of course my friends were with me that drove me there, and I have to go back a little bit. The person that was with my husband was a friend of ours, a doctor, and he and my husband flew together. They actually owned the plane together, and he saw my husband crash, and he's the one that got him to the hospital and everything. So I got there, he met me, and he says, just a minute, there's somebody in the emergency room and having trouble, we can't go in just yet. And I felt like, I went to my friends, I says, he's dying, I know he's dying. And they laughed at me, thought I was just insane.
Your friends thought you were insane?
Well, because why would they think that he was dying?
Well, he'd been in a plane crash.
I know, but but the doctor said he's okay. You know?
Yeah.
So he was trying to protect me because it was really my husband that was having the problem in the emergency room, and they were working on him to revive him a little bit. They did. Finally, I went in there and I saw him, and he couldn't talk, and he had plugs all over the place in his body, and his nose, and his stomach, and his groin, and his arms, and stuff like that. But he was able to pat me very strongly on the head. So I just talked to him a little bit, and then I had to go leave. They asked me to leave, and then I think that's when I really knew that he was dying. But I didn't feel the angels in the hospital at that point. Only in the car.
On the ride up to the hospital?
Up to the hospital.
So before you got to the hospital, you felt the angels.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, that was in the car, and I told my friends the angels are here, and of course, naturally, they think you're a little Lulu.
Sure.
And but they just told me he's there and that they were with me.
They told you that he's in the hospital?
That he's okay, but they didn't tell me at that point he was going to die and not make it. But they just sort of told me and patted me on my back, telling me that they're with me.
They were with you.
Yes. And then they took my husband up, and they were going to operate on him. And I, meanwhile, had called many people, and my son came, and my stepchildren came, and my brother-in-law came, and to the hospital from New York. They all came, and I went into the chapel at some point during the night or whatever. We were sleeping on the floor and all kinds of, like that. And that's when they really came to me very strongly. And they patted me on my back, and they said, he's not going to make it. We're sorry. It's going to be okay, but he's not going to make it. And so I just sort of kept that to myself. Then they tried to operate on him, but they couldn't, and they needed to send him further into Pennsylvania to Danville, where there's really a major hospital for trauma, and they were having the plane come and get him to fly him there, and then we had to drive him there. And on the way, we stopped for lunch because my son said to me, he says, we got to go eat now because we don't know when we're going to be able to eat again. And we don't want to eat hospital food all the time. So my two stepdaughters were with us and my son. And in the middle of the luncheon, and it was like 1:25 in the afternoon, I got this shiver from my angels, and I just shivered. And apparently I went pale. And they said, what's wrong? And I said, nothing. It's just not good. It's not good. And we got to the hospital, and they met us immediately, took us in, told us that he had died on the minute practically that he got to the hospital. And then I did not see my angels for quite some time. And of course he died at that time that I got the shiver in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I had that clock stopped at the time he died.
The clock. This is the clock you're pointing to is in your home.
Yes,
we're in your home. I should mention to the listeners.
Yeah, grandfather clock that was his, and he used to wind it all the time. It was his charge. He loved it, and it died when he died.
This clock was in Brooklyn?
Yeah, it was in the house right where you see it.
And, of course, he's in...
We're in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And...
There's something out there, of course.
Yeah. When you got the shiver at the luncheon, were the angels with you then? Did you hear them?
I didn't hear them, but I sort of felt them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, just... I think they were telling me, but it was not strong at that point. It was much stronger, had been much stronger in the chapel, in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he died on that day, June the 4th. And then I didn't see them for some time, but I used to feel that my husband would be, when I was going to sleep, because of course I was in mourning a lot, and because the shock is it's a shock.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt him petting my head, but I don't know for sure. And right now, I never thought of it that way. If it was my angels or it was him.
Because he pet your head
in the hospital, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it just was very strange. And then that was that. I didn't see them or anything for quite some time.
Just 1 second here, listener. We're going to just take another quick pause. As you can imagine, it gets a little emotional. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and where we left off, you were telling us that your husband had passed. The angels had appeared to you on the car ride up, and they had appeared to you in the chapel that was in the hospital after you had spent some time with your husband. You'd seen him briefly with all these tubes and things. And then you went to the chapel, and they appeared to you. They told you he wasn't going to make it. And then when you got to the next hospital, he had passed away. Yeah. And you felt somebody patting your head sometimes in those months and maybe years after he passed away when you were in mourning. You said you don't know if it was the angels or if it was him, but so that was kind of where we left off. And you want to tell your next story about the angels?
Well, the next story came on. I was diagnosed in 2001 with breast cancer, stage 1, and I'm here, of course, to tell the story. So it was all okay. But my friend and I had made plans to go to France for 3 weeks, and we had rented a house in the southern part of France. But we were touring around, and it was mountainous area, and we went to one town, and I don't remember the name, but apparently it was a famous church there that one of the Henrys, King Henrys, had after a battle, I think during the Crusades or maybe even before, threw a sword at the church, and it stuck in the church cement bricks, and it's still there to this day. And then, we went in there, but it was also known as the church with the Black Madonna. So I had 2 friends with me. Actually, I should say that they're devout Catholics, and I'm not, or never was, but believe in God strongly, of course. But they were saying prayers for that my cancer would be gone, and then I felt the angels just hovering over me, so to speak, I guess. But I didn't see them, and they didn't talk to me at that time. But it was somewhat comforting. And I had the surgery, and everything was fine. I had a little radiation. It was stage 1, and then that was it. And then I didn't feel them or see them for a very, very long time. And then very recently, I fell. I just had recovered from COVID, and I was going down my basement steps. I went down 2 steps to get some garbage bags that I kept there. I turned around, had the bags in my hand, and it was up 1 step. And suddenly my legs gave way, and I fell down the stairs head first on my back. And that was it. Wow. But I did not see the angels. But when I got up, and the next day I had no broken bones, I didn't have a scratch, a sore, or anything, a bruise on me. So
And you fell down essentially a flight of stairs.
yeah, 14 steps.
And when you got to the bottom, you were able to stand up.
After a bit, until I felt how I was going to be. You know,
Yeah.
you had to know if you felt that you could stand. So it was probably a little while. But I did not really feel the angels. But I know the way I survived that fall, they were holding me up because nobody, I don't think, on this face of this earth would have had a fall like that head first down a flight of stairs and not even have a bruise or a scratch.
Yeah.
So I just feel that they're there, they're still there, and they're watching over me very strongly. In my later years, I'm even feeling that they're really watching me and protecting me, and I don't know why.
Well, that's really, so if you don't mind, would you tell us how old you are now?
I'll be 85 in 2 weeks.
Okay, 85 in 2 weeks. You look great.
Thank you.
You're sharp as a tack.
Thank you.
And honestly, and you, so you said you feel them. You feel them more now. You can kind of feel it.
I just feel that they're right. They could even be here. I just feel that they're around.
Feel the presence.
Their presence. I don't actually feel their presence. I just know that they're watching over me and taking care of me. And so when I pray to them as well as God. Because and of course, mostly, I don't pray for myself. I pray for them to take care of my son and watch that he's okay and he's happy and he's healthy. And all my family. So, but they're there.
Yeah.
They're here.
So you said that you mentioned that you weren't a devout Catholic, and we've talked a little bit before, but can you just tell us a little bit about your sort of upbringing and your religious background? What was it like as a kid?
As a kid, my parents sent me to Sunday school. We didn't go as a family to church often, but I would go as a teenager, go with my friends and stuff because we were girls, and of course we had to look what guys were there.
Oh yeah, that was the thing.
That was the thing you did. You had to go to church.
One of the things to see the guys was church.
Yeah,
because you grew up in Regina, Saskatchewan.
In Regina, Saskatchewan,
which is a bigger city for Saskatchewan, but not a huge city. Right?
It was in those days. It was maybe a population at the most of about 150,000 people.
Okay,
it's the capital of the province, and so it was, a very prairie agriculture area.
So your family was what denomination?
My family was German, and on my mother's side, basically, my father's side was the Scottish and English, and so we were Europeans, Central European, basically.
And so Protestant, like Lutheran?
My mother was Lutheran. My father was the United Church of Canada, which is kind of like a Methodist church. The same as a Methodist church, basically.
More sort of moderate, not real...
Yeah, moderate.
Not real, like, evangelical or anything
No,
like
nothing like that at all.
So you said you didn't go to church every Sunday with your family?
No, just occasionally.
Okay, maybe Christmas and Easter and that kind of thing?
Things, and Mother's Day, and, the odd time. Yeah.
So it wasn't a very religious household.
No. We learned to pray when we were kids and to say grace and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my parents were religious in respect that they just believed in God and the Bible. That was about,
But they weren't often mentioning Jesus or the Bible or God?
No, nothing like that. Nothing ever growing up. But they had gone to church as children, and my mother even more so. So that was it. And as I grew older and I thought about things and stuff like that in my later teenage years, and that I was quite agnostic. I couldn't say that there was no God. Because I just felt there might be something there. I've always sort of felt that there's something there. But I didn't really believe in it, and I was not much interested in religion or anything like that.
Okay.
But then I got married by Justice of the Peace. My husband was Catholic, and I was Protestant, and when I got pregnant for the first time, we decided I felt strongly, and my husband did too, but not as much as me, because he was pretty much not believing in anything, and that a child had to be raised with some sort of background of religion.
Mm-hmm.
So, living in New York City and having my husband was Italian, I decided that, of course, all my son's cousins would be in. Everybody would be Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided on Catholic so that he could go to Catholic school if he want. And then that was it. He went to Catholic school and he went to Catholic high school. And then he made his own decision of what was going to be for his life. And at this point, he doesn't believe in much. But I feel that he's got the background. So when he needs it, it'll be there for him.
Mm-hmm. So, were you going to church when your son was going to Catholic school and he was being raised here in Brooklyn? Were you going to church with him?
I did on occasions.
On occasion,
yeah, I would. And we baptized him. We, he had his confirmation, and he had his communion, then he had his confirmation. So we did all of that, and but we were. My husband never went. But we just, you just need the strength. I feel that strongly that you need a strength to go on through life. And I know that if I didn't have my background, I would have never believed in the angels when they came to me or trusted them. I don't think.
So you think that your kind of basic background in Christianity helped you when the angels appeared to you?
Yeah.
Because at that time, it sounds like you weren't very religious, correct?
No, I wasn't.
Your son wasn't. Well, he was 4 at the time.
Yeah,
so
he was 4.
There was he was in school, but you weren't going to church very often.
No.
I think it's interesting. I think it's, a listener might think, well, it depends on your religious. If you're very religious, you might have these experiences in a traumatic time. People have these theories about what near-death experiences are. But I've heard many stories from people who are full-on atheists that have these profound experiences.
Right.
And, some people do have, who are more religious, have these experiences as well. It seems that what is presented to somebody in these situations often is something that will be recognizable or familiar to them. So Christian people usually have sort of Christian type experiences, angels or maybe Jesus, whereas somebody that's of another faith, a Hindu, may have a Hindu deity appear to them, which I don't think negates the experience at all. I happen to believe that there's one, call it source or God, and that
exactly.
in its infinite wisdom, it presents itself as whatever is comforting to a person in distress. For me, seeing Shiva in a moment of stress wouldn't be as comforting as seeing an angel.
Yeah.
This sort of creature that I've been exposed to growing up. So that's me editorializing a little bit, but I can see how angels would appear to you in the way that, like you said, that is seen in the Bible or maybe in some religious paintings or something at church when you were a kid. Yeah.
I just have one little aside to
Sure.
put this. My mother had, years before, but not maybe 20 years before, had a ruptured appendicitis. And she was very ill, and she got an infection afterwards, and she was very, very ill. And she said when she was still in the hospital, she had never told anyone this story ever, apparently not my father, her sisters, or anybody like that. She told me that she saw Jesus Christ on the wall in her hospital room. That he just had his arms wide open for her.
Oh my goodness.
But she had a son 2 years old.
This was before you were born?
No, I was after I was born. I was about 16 or 17. And
but she thought, this young son of mine needs me.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So Jesus was sort of beckoning to her as well?
Yeah. He was opening her arms to her. And of course, I never heard this. She never ever told it to me or anybody. I had never ever heard it. But now I haven't realized until this minute that her experience was very similar to mine.
It was.
I had a ruptured tubular pregnancy.
Uh-huh.
She had a ruptured appendicitis.
Uh-huh.
She refused Jesus because she had a 2-year-old.
Uh-huh.
I refused the angels because
Yeah.
I had a 4-year-old.
It's remarkable.
It is.
It's she told you this story after you told her your story?
Absolutely.
And she felt comfortable probably since you had shared your story.
Yeah.
Because I share my spirituality with some people, and some people look at me like I have two heads.
Right.
It's I'm kind of selective about who I share it with, I mean, it is your story is interesting to me. I've heard a lot of these stories just because I told you before that I heard one from this woman named Anita Morjani who is. She had a really profound experience, and it was very detailed, and she had actually been in stage 4 cancer, was in a coma, and she encountered a number of people who had passed on, and spirit guides. She didn't know exactly who she was seeing, angels or spirit guides, and but she encountered the presence of her father who had passed on. He told her it wasn't her time, and she decided. And he also told her, you got this illness because you were so fearful all the time. Go back and live your life and don't be fearful. And she said, and it was just the sea of love that she was really like on the other side.
Yeah.
But there was a point where she had to decide what to do. And, her father was advising her to come back. So she did. And then her cancer rapidly healed. So it was a very, she told the story. There was this forum online called NDERF, or NDERF, Near Death Experience Research Forum, I think is what it stands for. Anyway, people would share their stories anonymously, and her story was so sort of detailed that it got a lot of interest. And this man named Wayne Dyer, who was a spiritual teacher, he passed away 10 years ago, 10 years ago. He used to do these PBS programs, and he found out about her and had his team at this publishing house go and find her.
Yeah.
They just from the little clues they got from her, she had her first name and her last name's initial. They tracked her down, and she was living in Hong Kong, and persuaded her to write a book and just tell her story. So anyway, that was the one that got me interested. So I've listened. If you go on YouTube, there's thousands of people telling their stories, and there's a lot of overlap. And a lot of the overlap is they have this love, they feel this intense love, and they often encounter some kind of, spiritual guide or a deceased ancestor or, a religious figure, a deity. And, a lot of the message they get is about the importance of love and loving themselves and, whatever kind of messages that they need to hear to help them live a joyful and peaceful and productive life even. So, there's all these overlaps, which is why I was like, oh, this is something. And it wasn't just a few people. There's been millions of people that have had these experiences, especially since the advent of things like CPR, where people could be dead for a little while, but then, or nearly dead, some systems shutting down, and then brought back to life. But many people don't tell their stories because they're called crazy, or it's, I'm sure you told me before you encountered some of that. So I'm sure your mother, living in Saskatchewan in the early part of the 20th century, didn't have a lot of people she could tell her story to.
No, she didn't.
I'm imagining even maybe even a local pastor would think she's crazy, like wouldn't But what I haven't heard a lot of is, I don't know I'm sure there's other instances of this, but I haven't heard a lot of people like yourself saying no. I have heard some. Yeah. But they talk about how hard it is because it seems so beautiful.
That's what they kept telling me. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And this is just something that when we've been talking, it's been crossing my mind. When my grandfather died in 1954, I was 14 years old. And then many, many years later, I started having dreams about him. And he was at a shore of a river, I think, and it was very green and had weeping willow trees. And he would come to me in this dream, in this beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
And the water rippling, just like a painting. I mean, a beautiful movie shot or something like that. And he would just be sitting there. And I guess I think when the angels were, because I'm thinking this is one of the things I remember, was when my grandfather, how beautiful it was where he was.
So
there was a connection from way, way back.
So what you sort of like imagined that place when they were telling you about where you could go. Yeah. And I imagine you felt very warm and loved in those dreams.
Yeah.
So what I wonder if you've wondered this, is you have this young child at home. Why were they asking you to go with them? You almost, like, from a human perspective, you think, what are they doing, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I really haven't thought about that.
No?
Oh, you made me think of something more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just thankful that I was, for some reason, that God put the teachers on strike.
Yeah.
And sent me to home, because if I would have been alone with my son in the house when this happened, I might have just died on the spot.
Yeah.
That's what I think about more.
Yeah.
So I just think that there's something there, like, and not at 9/11, just 1 week before 9/11 happened, I just had been out to Fire Island with friends. I came home, I was unpacking, and I heard a kitten crying its heart out in my backyard. I looked out, it was a little white kitten with a black patch on its head. And I'm going, shoo, 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 shut up. And it's still crying, so I finally go out to take it or whatever, and it came to me. And then I had that cat. I brought it in, gave it cream, because that's all I had in the house, and crab meat to eat. But it was not a feral cat. It was a lost little kitten, about 3 months old. Nobody knew anything about it. It made me love it. And that was there.
Were you a cat person?
No, I'm a dog person.
So we have a cat. My wife's very much a cat person.
Yeah.
Very much. Like, if she sees a stray on the street, she tries to help it. And I'm always like, Kate, I'm kind of the opposite.
Right.
Like, I'm a little like, I don't know, do they have a disease? Like, I don't, like, it's a stray. So if you sound similar to me. Like, you're reluctant to take care. Yeah.
Yeah, and I put him in the basement, and I put him in a box and papers and stuff like that. And the laundry room, we got the door open. This was for a couple of days, because I thought, well, from at work, maybe somebody will take him. But no, and so but he was there for comfort during 9/11. So I feel that my father, because he was the animal lover, sent me the cat, and I've always felt that. Or my husband, but my husband would never send me a cat. My father would be more to the person to send me a cat. So I really think that there's stuff out there that we just don't understand.
Yeah.
But people are looking, if you're being open a little bit to them, people are, they're letting you know.
Yeah.
And still taking care of you.
Yeah.
And another instance, I hope we're not just going too long.
No, it's fine.
When my mother died, my mother had something happened to her she was one of 26 people at that time in this world, apparently, diagnosed with having a brain tumor. Not a brain tumor, but the word's losing me. From encephalitis.
Okay.
And she was crippled and everything like that, and had to live from then on. She was only 70 years old in a nursing home, and she lost her leg, and she lost her other leg.
Oh, God.
And she couldn't speak well because it attacked her brain stem, so she couldn't finish a sentence, and she couldn't call us by names. My father was by a younger brother of hers. That name would come out, and she could never say my name. But she knew who I was, but she could not speak a full sentence. So maybe about 6 months after she died, I was trying to go to sleep, and I couldn't go to sleep, and I was closing my eyes, and I heard my mother call me by my name. And I was very upset about that. I thought, oh my God, she's telling me somebody else is going to die. Is it going to be my son? I asked all kinds of people about what that meant, that she was calling me by name.
In a dream.
In my dream.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody said they didn't know. They didn't know. It could be bad. Then one person said to me, oh, don't you know? She was telling you that she's okay now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she can call you by name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just think there's all these spiritual things around us that are very strong if you let them be.
Yeah. It's there's a phrase that some spiritual people use that this man Wayne Dyer used to say, if you you'll see it when you believe it. Rather than
very apropos.
Believe it when you see it. You'll see it when you believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just finish up with the story of how we met. So I was at this coffee shop, and I speak to a spiritual medium every once in a while, and this one that I had spoken to had advised that I learn to knit. Because I've been doing writing. I have this podcast. I interview for people, but I also do writing for this podcast. I write little essays, and I tell jokes, and I do these little bits. And anyway, she was saying, doing something creative. I'm like, I'm doing that already. She said, no, I think it needs to be physical. That's what I'm getting, is that you need to do something physical. And so I said, I have no idea. I'm not crafty. But I've always been interested in clothes. And there's a type of sweater that I've wanted for a long time that I can't find the colors that I want. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start knitting. It might take me years to ever make a sweater, but so I started knitting. And you walked out with two of your friends, and I was there knitting, and you just started talking about knitting because you had knit in your life.
Yes.
And your friend, I mentioned that I wanted to make this sweater, and your friend was in the fashion industry. Went to fashion school, was very skilled, can make all kinds of clothes from what it sounds like. So that was the first synchronicity is what these spiritual people call, and I thought, oh, okay. And then you sit down, we start talking, and somehow it comes up that you're from Saskatchewan. And my nephew had been drafted by a hockey team in Saskatchewan maybe 4 or 5 days prior, which was kind of big news in our family.
Very big news.
Yeah, because it's a very good team, very high-level team. And he didn't know he was even being looked at by this team. So, and I'm a hockey player, so it was fun for me to hear. And I was just sharing with my hockey friends about it. And I have never met anybody from Saskatchewan. You told me Regina was 150,000 when you were growing up or something. It's a small population in that province.
Right.
And there's certainly not a lot of people from Saskatchewan in our neighborhood.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 1 million people in the whole province, and it's almost the size of Texas.
Yeah. And I've met Canadians. I have a number of Canadian friends, but nobody from Saskatchewan.
No.
So that was the second big synchronicity. And then we started talking some more, and we started talking a little bit about culture and politics. And I brought up this book that I tell everybody about called American Nations. And you all had been speaking about that morning, that exact book, which was nobody, maybe somebody might say, oh, I saw an article about that once, but very few people have read it, and certainly very few people would be talking to their friends about that day. And then
this is where all of this comes in.
Yeah.
So somebody sent us to be together.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have somehow because we just started opening up right away, and you tell me about your near-death experience, and I'm like, that's a huge thing. If you ask my wife what I'm most into in the world, she'd say, hockey and near-death experiences, and so that was that was shocking to me when you told me that, because I keep that pretty close to the vest. My listeners know, because it's one of the things I talk about in the podcast, the spirituality, but that was remarkable to me. Not only that I could talk to you about it, but that you'd had these experiences yourself. So, that was like bing, 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 all in an hour of sitting on this bench outside a coffee shop. So I do, I've, some things are, some of these near-death experiences are there's people will report things that have happened when they were unconscious that they saw maybe in the next building or something because they left their body. And the people involved will say, yes, this happened. Like, this is exactly what I said, or this was what I was wearing, or this is what action I did. And that person would have no way of knowing, there's, and the other thing is there's so many people who have said these stories and who have other people that have verified it. And so many of these stories have these big overlaps, like I'm saying, where there's these spirit guides or there's angels and these feelings of peace and love. And, that it's almost to me like you have to sort of work to not believe it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you weren't a particularly religious person. I was not before I encountered these stories. I was quite academic in my 20s, and I was basically atheistic, and I took sort of a intellectual approach against religion because it was fashionable amongst the people I was hanging out with,
and it still is.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I think some of it is, obviously there's been problems with traditional religion. Many people, it doesn't work for them, but what I think, and I try to do with this podcast, is say to those people who haven't found a traditional religious path, you may still be yearning for meaning and for purpose and for faith and for trust, and there's other stories that can help you. That helped me, because I had trouble with all that too. I had trouble with just believing in whatever the church told me, or even the Eastern religion. Some of that was impactful to me, but just regular people's stories to me is the most impactful thing. And that's why I like to talk about it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for sharing. I know it's not always the easiest thing, but I think it was an excellent episode, and we're getting right about the time when we wrap things up. So thanks again, Colleen, and to the listeners, we'll be back again in the not-too-distant future. Hope everyone's well. Peace and love.